Well, David, we were just talking about the 1970 Bath Festival, which was actually at Shepton Mallet. Was that one of the first festivals you ever played at?
It was, yeah, actually, it was. We played at the second Glastonbury Festival with the Fairport, so we were on with Traffic and I think Pink Floyd. I don't remember much about that. We were on the movie from Glastonbury that year.
What do you remember of the Shepton Mallet one?
I remember loads and loads of stuff from it because I had a blue Ford Anglia, registration number GHA 757L, and I was the only driver in Fairport. The band all left and I took Dave Swarbrick, our violinist, from our house in Little Haddam. We all lived together, you know, when it was in the days when bands got it together in the country, and we lived in this hovel, which was an ex-pub called The Angel. And I took Dave Swarbrick and my ex-wife Christine and my daughter Stephanie. We drove there, and at about 10:30 in the morning we came to a standstill because the traffic was just a complete traffic jam, and both directions, because the AA had diverted holiday traffic from the south in the opposite direction, so we couldn't go anywhere. So being, you know, such a professional band, I sent Swarbrick, our violinist, off walking with his violin, and said the only way we'll get to the festival is if we walk. So off he went with his violin, and then 10 minutes later I thought, I'm going to have to go as well, the traffic's not moving. And I flagged down a guy on a motorbike, one of the local Hells Angels, who gave me a lift after relieving himself on a passing Bentley, which was coming the other way, with a very rich gentleman and his family in, who was stuck in a holiday traffic diversion, and he relieved himself up against the Bentley and then gave me a lift on the pillion. And then we met Swarbrick and he said, I'll get my mate, he's got a sidecar. And eventually we all got to the festival site, and I persuaded the Hells Angels to go backwards and forwards, ferrying musicians to the festival. And they gave them a tent and free entrance. So, you know, I think I'm responsible for some of those bands being there.
You mentioned the Hells Angels. They were very much a part of festival life in those days, weren't they? They were almost used as sort of security men. Well,
they were used as security. You know, we were much younger. We didn't know much about kind of organisation of festivals or anything. We didn't have our own festival at that time. We did play in this village Cropredy, you know, to raise money for the local village fund. But we played at a lady's house in the back garden, and that's how this all started. And our security was people that we knew. But yeah, I'm sure the Hells Angels did a pretty good job. I mean, you know, in terms of helping out people that were promoting gigs.
And I mean, festivals in those days, I mean, you can tell better than most people because you played at them, but they were kind of on the fringes of society in those days, weren't they? Whereas now they're kind of part of the mainstream. But in those days, it was slightly on the edge, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They were kind of looked down upon by, you know, the populace. Really, it was. Of course, we were all so much younger then, and it was a great thing to have festivals. The Glastonbury one, the second one that we did, was. It was just amazing for us, you know, and it was that kind of spirit still exists in festivals today, and it's fantastic that festivals are so big. In England there's about 700 festivals now. This has grown. This is my 39th appearance at our festival, so that's how long it's been kind of going on here, you know.
What about the Glastonbury one in '71? I mean, do you have any memories of that one?
Well, I remember the toilets were fairly basic, like a pit in the ground, you know, with like a bit of a canvas covering around. It was pretty basic, but and we were all kind of younger, so we were, you know, we took everything that was available, if you like, the Fairports, you know, because we were, you know, in that kind of vibe, that festival vibe. We obviously don't now. We still take lots of drugs. In fact, you know. All our songs, we do that song by the Moody Blues, Nights In with Statins, that's one of ours, and then you know, we do stuff like The Police, you know, Don't Stand So Colostomy and things like that. But you know, when you're young you obviously experiment with all that kind of stuff, and so did the audience, which is why a lot of the time they didn't know we'd been on.
Well, you played quite a few festivals through the 70s, and then we come to 1979, where you were booked to play at Knebworth, and also there was the farewell gig at Cropredy. How did all that come about?
It was a miracle, really, because I was friends with John at Bonham and Robert from Birmingham, because people in Birmingham, you know, they're all desperate to be in each other's bands, you know, to escape from the city. It's really difficult to get out of Birmingham. It's really well signposted if you want to get to Birmingham, but try getting out, you know. There are many ways out, but when you're a young musician in those days, you had to kind of move to London to kind of make it, you know. So luckily I knew, I played with John and Robert, and they invited the Fairport. They liked the Fairports. They liked Fairport Convention, and so they invited us to play at Knebworth. We were the opening act. We were on like the first act on, and we were terrified, absolutely terrified, because it was the first week of the two gigs that they did, and there were about 100,000 people there, and a lot of them with painted faces, and we thought they may not appreciate kind of folk ballads and jigs and reels and stuff. So we kind of designed our set to try and impress the kind of heavier rock fans of Led Zeppelin's audience, you know. And we got an hour set. We were supposed to play for an hour, but we'd had some strange kind of chemicals the night before and on the morning of the gig, and our set, we'd finished in 45 minutes because we played everything at breakneck speed. And then the DJ said, "They love you, can you do another half hour?" So then we were lumbered with doing slow ballads and everything, but luckily we got paid. Apparently not many of the acts got paid, but they looked after us, you know. And then we had to go, we told our audience that we're coming to Cropredy that we were going to fly up in a helicopter in order to do the gig, which was at that field over there. But the helicopter looked like a rusty white Transit, from what I remember.
And it was also ostensibly the end of the band, wasn't it? It
was the end of the band, yes, August the 4th, 1979. It was kind of the end of the band, but the beginning of this event, because we were always good mates, and the reason we split up in 1979, it was when the punk thing was happening, you know, and we felt kind of old, you know, and out of place with, you know, all the other bands. We thought nobody's going to like this stuff, you know. And also we were paid off by a gentleman called Ken Maliphant, who luckily was the director of Phonogram Records. It was a time when the music industry had gone from people of our own age who were setting up record companies like Chris Blackwell, Terry Ellis, all of those little independent labels started coming out, and they were run by people that loved music and sponsored the arts and music and were on the band's sides. But they'd become so successful that they'd now been taken over by accountants. And so the Fairports, when we left Ireland, we were the only act on Ireland that never made it. And in the end they said, "Oh, you've got to go, you know, we can't, you know, it's a bit of an embarrassment having you on our label." So we went to Phonogram and we gave them 2 albums, and then the guy in charge, the accountants at Phonogram, said, "Don't have any more Fairport albums, we can't sell them," which is fair enough, it's true, we couldn't sell them either. So, but the guy Ken Maliphant, who's here this weekend, I saw him yesterday, very kindly, when I heard this, I said, "But we've got a contract for 6 albums and we've only had 2, we can give you another 4 next week, we want the money." And Ken said, "Well, can we give you the money and you not make the albums?"
So he's paying you not to make music?
We were paid not to make albums, which is when the band split up, because it was the first time we'd ever made any money in the music business. I bought a house in Cropredy, thanks to Ken, who remains a good mate of ours. He did it on purpose because he sympathised with he went, "You've cracked it here, guys, I'll pay you not to make the albums."
Sounds like a great business model.
It was fabulous, and that's why we split up. So Dave Swabrick went to live in Scotland. We had our August the 4th after the Led Zeppelin and Knebworth do here, you know, and then Cropredy started off as a result of the fact that we were all mates and all the Fairport, all that kind of folky lot, and we loved playing music together. So every year we would get back together in the village and do a reunion festival, and it's kind of grown and grown to this, you know.
And as you say, at the time, during the 70s, you and Dave Swabrick were actually almost next door to each other, weren't you?
Yeah, we lived in Cropredy, you know, in Chapel Row. I was, you know, the houses are still there. Swarbrick's cottage was called Stonecroft, which somebody last year put the D after the stone, Stoned Croft, which was what it was like when we moved into the village. It was okay for me because I'd got my wife and my 2 kids. They went to Cropredy school, so we knew most of the people in the village. But Swarbrick married a lovely Jamaican lady who used to be Chris Blackwell's secretary, so she was a kind of first person of a coloured persuasion that had moved into the village, and the curtains would all, you know, that we were observed quite a lot, you know. But the village of Cropredy, that's how this whole thing grew, from trying to raise money for the local village funds, and they've always been 100% behind us. If you figure there's 700 people live in this village, and now there's 20,000 here this weekend, you know.
It is amazing the way it's grown and kept going. I mean, you can't have imagined when you started it that it would be still going all this time.
Absolutely not. No. It was just you know, somewhere to play with your mates. Our toilets this year cost like £100,000. You know, that's before you start emptying them, because there's so many fields. Every available acre of land we've got. You know, in the first Cropredy Festival, we had 2 kind of blue, you know, two units, which were paid for by the bar people, and the bar was like 2 barrels of Lichborough ales, you know, like 2, literally, with 50 gallons of beer. That's all we had.
And a final thought, that, you know, most festivals take place in rural areas, don't they? They generally tend to be quite a country thing, which kind of connects them with a traditional, almost ancient part of England. There is that sense of tradition, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. And the fact that ours takes place on these grounds is quite interesting, because there was a famous Civil War battle here in 1644 on this very field. You know, there was a lot of bloodshed and stuff, you know, with brother fighting brother, and our friend Ralph McTell wrote a song called Red and Gold, which we recorded, and it's an incredible story, and it's you know, the story of the events that took place here. We're you know, it kind of, for this village, it's, as I say, it's only got a population of about 700 people, but it's become such a big thing in the village. Annual kind of, it's such a big thing. The village lives off this festival for most of the rest of the year, and every kind of little society, they're all out cooking breakfast now. You know, everywhere you go in the village, they're out there feeding the 20,000 people that are here, and the pubs take more money this weekend than they do the rest of the year.
So there's every chance it's going to keep going for many years.
Well, we hope it, even when we're kind of gone, you know, I hope it'll. You can't stop people coming to Cropredy. If we stop doing it, I'll bet there'd be 10,000 people turn up this weekend, and somebody else would take it on. We like to take it on ourselves and keep it going. We're very lucky because we've got Gareth Williams, who's our kind of chief executive officer, who's doing a great job, and he's younger than us, and he can cope with the tech, you know, all the stuff that you need to know about to book festivals on nowadays, which I couldn't do. That Ralph McTell, that song Red and Gold, it's Ralph.
It was good timing, wasn't it?
Gave you a plug.
Are you going to play it?
Not this year, no, but we've got 2 of his songs. We have to do some of his songs, otherwise he don't come.
Many thanks.
Thanks, Charlie. Is that all right?
That's lovely, really.